What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the Talking to the Doll Benfica Podcast. Episode number 418 is what we're up to. My name is Alfredo Fumacish. With me, as always, Cristiano. Cristiano.
As always. With you, as always, should be my primo Dave over there in the Great White North. I'm back out of international break.
Positive Cristiano or negative Cristiano?
I haven't decided yet. But right now, I'm going to be positive. I'm glad to be back here with you guys. I missed you guys tremendously. It had to be the longest ever international break, at least on my behalf. But I'm ecstatic to be back with you guys. I miss my primo Dave over there in Canada. Hope you're doing well. I miss you, Alfredo, sometimes. I mean, you're the only guy I know that manages to call me dumb, burro, stupid, all in one answer, like one sentence, without directly calling me those things. But I still miss you. So I'm happy to be back here on the podcast.
I'm just trying to improve your skill set. That's all.
My man Timo. And by the way, Benfica Independent, for those of you that love all things Benfica,
you've been shouting that out all day today. I like it.
It's the least I could do for a tremendous website that gives you everything about Benfica.
With us tonight, that gives us everything about Benfica, numbers included. Dave de Oliveira. What's happening, Dave?
Good to be back, Alfredo. Good to have the greatest of goats back
the greatest
on the
of goats.
You might call him a guru. I'll call him a goat, another farm animal. But yeah, good to have Cristiano back tonight.
I thank you for the kind words, but those words are reserved for the one and only Adel Tarap.
So anyway, on tonight's podcast, we will be breaking down the Santa Clara game, also today's game against Dinamo Kiev, and we'll be looking ahead to Boavista. Straight and simple, right? Everything that we usually bring to the table. Obviously, not the start of the Champions League that we wanted to, but we'll get into that in a little bit. Let's get into the Santa Clara game. Benfica traveled to Ponta Delgada to play Santa Clara this past Saturday, and a tale of two halves. But let's start at the beginning. Benfica lined up with Vlaco Dimos in goal, Veríssimo, Vertonghen, and Morato were the back three. Then Gonçalves and Grimaldo on the wing backs, Weigl and João Mário in the middle, Everton, Darwin, and Pinho were the rest of the 11. Dave, I guess I could start with you since Cristiano decided to take a pee break. Surprised at all that we saw Pinho. We hadn't seen Pinho in a while. Surprised that all you saw Pinho in Santa Clara. Did you think that this was just a case of saving legs for the Champions League?
I was surprised seeing Pinho there, especially coming back from international break. I was not expecting to see him in the starting 11. Would have liked to get the guys back in some game shape. Like I said, coming back from a lengthy international break. But ultimately wasn't too disappointed in Pinho. He gets on the score sheet for us, which can't say a lot of our strikers have been doing that so far this early in the season. So you got to give some credit to Pinho. But yes, most definitely was shocked to see him in the starting 11.
Yeah, and talking about rotating players, but I do understand that there's not many other options out there. But Veríssimo, who had just flown for a total of 40 hours during international break, whatever it was, Brazil to Lisbon to the Azores Islands, ended up getting a start instead of Otamendi. Cristiano, do you think it was because Veríssimo had one less game than Otamendi? Well, Otamendi didn't have a game. They both had the same number of games because Brazil ended up not playing Argentina because of that whole
4 minutes or whatever.
That whole fiasco.
If anything, Veríssimo had to play that scrimmage game too, so he's got more minutes under his belt there than Otamendi.
That's true, but it makes sense.
I think it was one of those situations. JJ looked at the birth certificate and opted for the younger option, a guy who had just arrived a few hours earlier in the Azores.
Yeah.
Luckily, it was raining, but this time they got their.
I don't know. I know we have we have Timo in the comments. He's in the chat, but man, in terms of climate changes in during that game, there was sun, there was rain. It was
It was the gods messing with
the
everybody.
whole
They were teasing
the whole
like,
gamut.
here's the rain. Now here's the sun. Here's the rain some more, and look, we're gonna give it a little bit more sun. And it was just, I think it was pleasing both sides. There was a lot of people. I don't want to say no names. There's a lot of people that were anxiously awaiting to see what the condition of their new drainage system. Right?
Vai tu, lá estás tu com essas merdas.
I'm just saying, and I think the gods gave you a little bit of both. They gave, and it showed that it worked fine this time around. Like, okay, like it's working. Let's bring out the sun again. So I think it was a little bit of both. I'm glad that things worked out. Glad to have seen Pinho get the start over there in the Source. Like Dave, I was surprised as well because you get very confusing messages from JJ. One day it's Gonçalo Ramos. He's the key guy to go to. And then the next day it's Yaramchuk. And then all of a sudden it's Sferovic. And then it's Darwin's turn. And then it's back to, and it's just, I guess, what's that? What's that game that the kids play with the chairs?
Musical chairs.
That one, I never played that. I was never allowed to participate in anything because I was a little SOB when I was a little kid. But yeah, I never got to play those games. But I think he's playing those musical chairs, little video game with the a Speenbuck song in the background. And this time, look, maybe Gonçalo Ramos didn't find the seat and quick enough, and Pinho grabbed it. And, I think that's what.
No, I had actually the game that we played before we went on international break, where Pinho played and he did pretty well in terms of holding the ball as being the one guy. Holding the ball and then waiting for the midfielders to come in to do combinations. I thought he done pretty well that game. He got the start on this one, and really somewhat of a challenging half for Benfica against Santa Clara. Santa Clara playing with a lower block at times, at other times pressing Benfica high. And when Benfica doesn't put pace in the game in that final third, it's very hard to break down a lot of these teams that just sit back and try to try to cover as much space between lines as possible.
It seemed like for quite a bit in that first half, like we were the ones playing with the low block because we couldn't create a damn thing, and Santa Clara was doing what they wanted with us. I just thought it was. Am I supposed to be positive here? Like
I asked you which Cristiano was in here today, the positive or the negative?
Try to put it nicely. I thought it wasn't a good half a football for the Águias.
No,
in the source. I thought we were lucky to go into the half with the 1-0 lead. Yeah, and look, credit to Pinho. He's the only guy. He had both shots on. I don't really consider that first shot on goal. I don't consider that a shot. It's, he shanked it, but nonetheless, I guess it went in the goal's direction. So therefore, it was a shot on goal. And then I think he pulled that one out of his, like they say, pull a rabbit out of a hat. And credit to him, he finished it, and Benfica took that lead. But I think we were lucky to go into the half with the 1-0 lead, because I thought Santa Clara, as you said, at times they played with the low block, but it seemed like they had Benfica on the ropes in that whole first half. So credit to them. They figured it out, a way to stifle Benfica. But sometimes football isn't fair. Sometimes, ball doesn't exactly roll your way, and Benfica this time the ball rolled their way.
Yeah, and look, it was 2 shots, and one of them was a goal. And the same thing with the second half. The second half, JJ operated some changes. He brought in João Mario, brought in Rafa, and he brought in. No, I'm sorry. He brought in Rafa for Pinho, and that seemed to make the whole lot of difference, because as Benfica needed that speed into the final third and that guy to just take guys on, just 1v1s, which was what Benfica needed. Rafa really brought that. I don't know if the decision, because usually, the guy just scored. Pinho had just scored. The decision from a coach typically is not take the guy that just scored, because obviously that could be a blow to his confidence, right? But understanding that what the game needed, and also that Darwin, even though Darwin likes to explore those spaces outside between the center back and the fullback, is not a guy that should play or start from the wing, I don't think. So it makes sense that he brought in Darwin into the middle and he dropped Pinho to the bench to bring Rafa, which is a guy with more speed to the wings. I don't know.
I mean,
that's the logic I find in it.
There's a whole lot there to talk about. And I'll let Dave jump in first, but I want to hear his thoughts. But there's just a lot to unpack there, and I have a lot to say. So, Dave, I mean, you've been carrying this podcast over the last few weeks while I was out on an international break, and so,
while you were reworking your contract on the international break, yes, I was taking over, and I was ready to just sit back and relax and not talk here, Cristiano, this week. But no, I wanted to just bring it back a little bit in that first half. What did you guys think about the Vlaco Dimos challenge and the yellow card? Should it have been more of a red?
Dave, I know you've been carrying the podcast, but we don't need to get ahead of ourselves. That's later down the line on when we wrap up this game.
He's taking the tip from my book. That's normally what I do. I jump ahead.
If you're going to the first, if we're recapping first half and already in the second half here, but
in my mind, I had saved a couple of things, a couple of plays that I saw that we were benefited from. So I guess we could start, right? Because
wait, but I let Dave talk, but I wanted to get back to that because, like I said before, there was a lot to unpack. So what your statements talked about the substitutions, it talked about Darwin, but I wanted to get here. I wanted to hear Dave's thoughts before I went.
Dave just went on a tangent on Vlaco Dimos' play.
That's good. He's taking after me. I like it. He's learning.
There we go. Taking some pointers from Chris there. Yeah, but before we get into the second half was day and night. But yeah, before we wrap up the first half, I think that. That was a really clumsy challenge there by Vlaco, and I felt that we were really lucky not to be down a man after that challenge.
Well, look, I don't know. I have to be honest here. You guys know I come on a podcast and I try to be as honest as I possibly can, regardless if it's in favor of Benfica or against Benfica. And in this instance, I didn't quite. And I guess this is a Portuguese football thing, right? Because they don't have different angles, but based on the replays
that they show you, at least
that they show you exactly. Look, Vlaco Dimos clearly gets a piece of the ball.
Yeah.
In the meantime, he makes contact with the opposition.
Yeah.
Right. Now, was it intentional? I know, and just again, this is my read
But getting the ball first, kind of.
I thought he clearly got the ball first, and in the meantime, he obviously made contact with the play. I don't think it was intentional. I don't think it was one of those, oops, I got the ball, but it wasn't enough and the guy's off on goal. Let me make contact or let me foul. I don't think there was any intention behind it. So therefore, I'm 100% okay with the yellow.
Yeah.
And you guys know, anyone who's been listening to the podcast here for a little while knows that I'm no big fan of Vlaco Dimos. And so, if anything, I'm looking for an excuse, right, to get him out. But I have to call a spade because a red card would have favored me, right? It's obviously getting him out. But no, I honestly think he made contact with the ball first. And then there was obviously contact with the player. So therefore, I'm okay with the yellow card because how many tackles do you see in the middle of the park, in the middle of the field, where a guy clearly gets the ball first and then just, proceeds to run a dude over, right? Or knock a guy out of a game. But the play, the initial decision by the referee is always, did he get ball first or not? Was it reckless? It wasn't. He got ball first. And I think in this instance, I don't think Vlaco Dimos was reckless at any point. So to me, I'm 100%
This is more clumsy than anything.
Yes, but that's him.
Careless.
But we all know when he's coming out of the box that this is what you get with him. He's clumsy. So you take all the good with Vlaco Dimos, but you have to take the bad. And this is part of it. You've seen it in the Taça Portugal. What's Taça Portugal, right? Taça Portugal final, where Helton got the red card, and then he came in and he gave up the P2 as well, coming out of the goal. It's just, this is not his forte. So we know this is the part of the game that he struggles with, but I'm totally okay with the yellow card. Now, we like to, not we, but a lot of people like to go on social media, come on podcasts and crap on all over JJ every chance they can, every chance they get. And, credit to you. You're entitled to. But I think also when things go well, we need to tip our caps as well. And I think in this situation, he took out Rodrigo Pinho, who scored, as you mentioned before, the only goal of the game so far. The only guy that really was, not that he did much, but he was at least trying something up top, right? And credit to him. He realized that this game needed Rafa's speed. Rafa came into the game, absolutely turned this game upside down in Benfica's favor. Smart on him to put Darwin up top. and have the guy and just let Darwin play with his back to the goal and be free and kind of play in the middle of the park and have different options to offer different runs. So I think in a lot of situations where we can criticize JJ, I think in this one situation, he read the game perfectly. And I think that those substitutions, those changes absolutely changed this game upside down. And Benfica after that was just a roller coaster. I mean, not a roller coaster, a bulldozer. And they just demolished everything in their path. As far as Darwin, you said it doesn't make sense to start him on the wing. I think once you have a healthy Seferovic and you have a Yaremchenko who's proved time and time again that when he gets the service, at least when he gets the service in the box, the guy is a clinical finisher. There isn't room for Darwin up top. He's going to have to play off of a wing coming in. And he showed in a lot of his games, and you see last year throughout the Europa League, it's when he's coming in and attacking and carrying the ball up the pitch, lifting his head up and beating guys physically with his speed. I think those are some of his strong suits. And so, again, I think we talked about this, Alfredo. If you rewind this to one of our first podcasts of this season, and I think I mentioned that I see him play. I actually sit on the right side because I didn't think Everton was going to get subbed out at the time. I just thought we spent too much money. He's just like him. Darwin's going to have to play. Everton's going to have to play. But look, to our surprise, he did it on the left side. But I think with everyone healthy, somebody's going to have to play out of position. It's not going to be Yaremchenko.
No.
It's sure as hell not going to be Seferovic.
Yeah.
And so the one that gives you the most flexibility in terms of being able to attack, being able to make his runs, use that physicality, pick up his head, set players up, it's Darwin.
It's Darwin. Or if you want to talk about mobility, you could throw Gonçalo Ramos in there also. But Darwin with the physicality, I completely agree. Yeah, so that play for me, yeah, when he touches the ball, yes, like Timo said, clumsy and stupid. I don't think it's reckless. I think I just thought it was just awkward the way he came out. But as Cristiano mentioned, he gets nervous when he has to come out of the box. But the other play that I wanted to talk about was the high foot by Diogo Gonçalves inside the box. That play gets called 100% of the time outside the box.
Was there contact?
It doesn't matter.
No, well,
it doesn't matter if it's a high foot. It doesn't need. There's
what
need
they
to
call
be contact.
Paying richt, right? Whatever it's called.
Well,
so
dangerous play.
So let me ask you a question. In the box, you're a referee. You should know this, and I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but I don't know. That's why I say you should know. If that play is called in the box, is that a penalty or an indirect free kick?
I've thought about this, and I don't know the rule.
I don't think
sure.
it's a penalty.
I don't know the rule for sure because I think that any foul in the box, with the exception of a. See, I don't know for sure. I would have to look it up.
It's a dangerous play.
It's a dangerous play, and usually it's an indirect.
It's an indirect.
It's
not a penalty.
But I don't know how that would apply in the box if that could even be in there.
Timo's on. He's actually in the chat saying indirect. To me, it's not a penalty. I always thought.
Yeah, it could have been indirect. Yeah, 100%.
So
indirect, I think that foul gets called 100% of the time outside the box.
And then in that instance, JJ pulls the Jose Mourinho tactics and parks the bus, basically puts everybody in the goal, and therefore,
but I actually thought that was one of the calls that we benefited. The Vlaco Dimos, and there's a lot of people thinking that we were benefited from the Vlaco Dimos goal. To me, play. To me, when he touches the ball, that's a saving grace.
Yeah,
that's a saving grace. If he doesn't make contact with the ball, it's a straight red.
I agree.
There's no question about it.
I totally agree.
But yeah, I mean, Benfica's super duper effective in the second half. With I wrote down here how many shots they had. 8 shots the whole game, 5 goals. I mean, so it's almost like when you're at the festa, shooting and throwing those darts at those balloons, and you get the prize. And Benfica got the prize for sure. And Ponte Delgado, Dave. What'd you think of the second half? Was it something like, man, I wish I would have just started watching the second half?
Yeah, no kidding. Definitely a night and day. This is somewhat of our old Benfica that we're used to seeing, where we have a good first half and then a not so good second half. And this was the opposite, but it turned out in our favor. And once the first goal came in the second half, they just came rolling down through. I think it was like 4 goals within the first 20 minutes of that second half. But the stats on the shots there, we had 8, but 5 were on target, and all 5 that were on target ended up being
You stole my thunder,
on
Dave.
goals. There you go. So
that's what I was going to say. They were efficient this one time. Not many times we could sit here on the podcast and say Benfica was efficient. This one time, all 5 shots on target. Hey, they got in the back of the net. And I mean, in the game that Benfica, in my honest opinion, Benfica was fortunate to go into the half being up 1-0. I mean, if anything, let's be honest. If the gods were fair in this game, Santa Clara probably deserved to be the one team going up 1-0 into the half, and Benfica was fortunate enough to come out of to go into the half with the 1-0 lead, and then all of a sudden in the second half, it was just everything that they put on goal was a goal, and fantastic job on them. I mean, Rafa, as I mentioned before, absolutely changed the game. And the one thing about Rafa, guys, we talk about this every single year since he's joined the club. In the beginning of the season, this guy is fantastic. He's lights out. He still can't finish. His final decision is terrible, but he because of his speed, he does and creates so many opportunities that even the ones that he shanks is like, bro, you're gonna get one right sooner or later, and he does, and he's just ultra efficient. He's just a fantastic player. If he's able to carry this through the full 8-9 months, I mean, we got player of the season and player of the league on our hands, but it's just. And again, we're gonna get to that point when he drops him and Pizzi, they disappear. But
it's tough for him because a lot of what Rafa does is based on speed, is based on explosion, and it's really hard for a player like that to keep having the same level of explosiveness throughout the season because you tire out, so on and so forth. But yeah, I mean. Rafa is right now is our most dangerous player for sure. But yeah, tremendous second half by Benfica and certainly a very important 3 points in Ponta Delgada, especially with the Clásico being played in the continent an hour later or whatever it was. It was great. It was great to have those 3 points and 5 consecutive wins in the season.
To start off the season, they've been hitting on all cylinders.
Dave, numbers on this game, brother.
Yeah, just following your Rafa comment, he's our top goal scorer so far with his 4th goal of the season. That's his 50th overall in his Benfica career. Darwin back on the score sheet, Cristiano's favorite since first goal since April 22nd. And the shot, Santa Clara ended up out shooting us 11-8, but to Cristiano's efficiency point, all 5 of our shots on targets ended up as goals. So,
serious question here, Alfredo, did you shed a tear when he scored 3 goals?
No, because I said a couple podcasts ago that I was done with Darwin. That my patience for Darwin had expired. So. Whatever I could get from him going forward, I'll grab. And after that, I just think that he's had enough chances, and really, I think the club has given him every condition possible, and I think it's really up to him to turn it around. So, I mean, there's nothing that we could do as fans to turn it around. It's the click inside his head that's got to turn it around. If, in fact, he does have it. Because some of the things that we've all seen, the clumsiness with the ball, the hesitation in whether I take a shot, whether I pass, and then ends up passing, or sometimes ends up losing the ball. Mind. It's all in your head. Mm-hmm. So we can't do anything about it. He has to do it.
But look, I'll tell you this much: you can say what you want. He was lucky, especially in that second goal. What did it take? 8 deflections on the way to goal day. But that could be crucial because, as you guys know, strikers is all about confidence. And maybe these 2 goals sparked the guy into, consistency, another level. As you mentioned before, maybe it knocks out those hesitations out of his head. And now the guy is able to perform at a higher level. Maybe starts putting away a lot of those chances as opposed to being unsure and looking for the easy pass. And it was rough at the beginning of the game. It was rough. The guy could not get his balance. It's like every time he was attacking, making runs, he's on his own, falling over to the side and tripping over his own feet. But again, this could really play with his mental aspect. And so as a Benfiquista, I love to see it.
And here's the other thing. How do we know now, right, with the arrival of Yaremchuk, that some of that pressure didn't get taken away from Darwin, from being the one guy, right? Because the price that the money that we spent on him and how he came, he was the guy, right?
I didn't forget though.
Seferovic was always like a second place guy, but he eventually ended up being the one guy, right? Because Darwin wasn't producing. There was some injuries, but now with Yaremchuk coming in, and Yaremchuk is not coming in by nearly any of the same figure that Darwin came in.
I wasn't too far. But now to 25. I mean, it's close.
But now everybody's expecting Yaremchuk to be the guy. So maybe the fact that pressure is now shifted, or that attention is now shifted to Yaremchuk, maybe that's something that will click in his head. I don't know.
You mentioned the price tags being different, but unless my memory is failing me, you have Darwin, most expensive player in the league history. Second, at least at Benfica, is I'm not sure if he's second in the league, but he might be, which is Everton. As far as Benfica goes, I think Darwin at 17 and a half. Not Darwin, I'm sorry. Yaremchuk at 17 and a half. Unless I'm missing somebody.
I don't recall.
He's the third most expensive player in the team's history.
I don't recall what we paid for him.
It was 17 and a half. We did
for like 17.5 for 75%.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah.
But for some reason, I'm thinking our price tag on Jimenez was up there too.
Oh yeah, it was like 23 after exactly Jimenez but those deals with freaking
don't forget Pizzi also 18.
Pizzi was it 18 or 16? I thought Pizzi turned out to be like 16. But the thing again, it's another guy to piggyback on the point I was making about Jimenez. Any of these deals that Benfica, or not any, but every deal that Benfica made with Atletico Madrid came with an asterisk. Like, what the hell's going on? So that whole thing with Jimenez, you never know. But I guess you're right, Dave. It came out to like 23. You're right. So that might put him ahead of Everton. Everton's like 22, right?
I mean, yeah. Knowing what we know and prices being inflated and us paying too much money for players and understanding where that excess money or those commissions were going, nothing surprises me anymore, really. Even though the Yaremchuk deal is done post Luis Vieira.
If he scores goals, that's the same thing with Darwin. If these guys come in and score goals, all of a sudden you forget about the price tag. You just think about the player. And unfortunately for Darwin, he couldn't deal with the pressure. Yaremchuk, I keep calling him Darwin. Yaremchuk so far, I mean, I know he's only got 2 goals. But at least the guy looks like when he's in the box, no vai por water. He ain't gonna, he's gonna take that opportunity. He's gonna bury it. So it looks like a clinical finisher. So I can't wait until Benfica starts actually creating chances for a guy like Yaremchuk, and then Seferovic when he gets healthy. I mean, Benfica got weapons all over the place.
But I think the problem with Seferovic is that Benfica is not going to let Darwin, with his price tag, sit on the bench, right? He's always going to get that opportunity over instead of Seferovic, just based on his price tag alone. Benfica can't afford to keep a Darwin on the bench.
Yeah, don't tell JJ that though.
There's a big investment, right? Obviously, they want to capitalize on him, but But talking about shedding a tear, you know what I shed a tear on? Cristiano. This week there was a lot of people marking the moment by posting on Twitter the 7th anniversary of us signing Jonas. Now you want to talk about shedding tears, man? Wow, man.
Alfredo, was that the pod I did with the vest? No shirt, because I remember one of those podcasts. I did it with a vest, and I remember going goo goo gaga over Jonas. And you're right. It left. It seemed as if there was like some onions being cut around me. Every time I think about that guy, he was just, for those that don't give the dude his due credit, it's just, it's sad because he's a phenomenal player. He's for sure a Benfica legend. He is a guy that changed the history of the club. All right. Presidents, coaches, teammates. There's guys that are on the Benfica Hall of Fame as a groupinho of only select few that have won 4 in a row. And that guy. Those players
Him and Andre Almeida
have a lot. No. Those players have a lot to think.
They're in the same sphere.
They have a
Him,
lot.
Andre Almeida, and Pizzi.
They have a lot to thank Pistolas because he was just a phenomenal player. Not only was he a fantastic finisher, but he was a guy that also could get other guys around him involved. He could create the defense. The opposition concentrated so much on him that it gave everybody else room and space around him. He in my eyes, and I've said this many times, 3 best players I've ever seen at Benfica: Simão Sabrosa, João Vieira Pinto, and Jonas. Put them whatever order you want, but those are my top 3. I mean, I think that those guys, what they did for the club, was fantastic.
Orest Chornomas, and sorry, I probably butchered that.
Chornomas.
Chornomas. Nunes, 25 mil. Everton, 22 mil. Jimenez, 21.8. De Tomas, 20. Forgot about the Tomas, 20.8.
Christ.
Weigl, 20.4.
Tomas don't count. The guy was over here for a weekend.
Vinicius, 17.5. Pedrinho, 17 mil after the negotiation. And Yaremchuk, 17 mil for, as we mentioned, 75%.
Wasn't Pedrinho 16? It was 18 initially, and then Vieira.
No, it was 20.
It was 20 initially.
And then the COVID hit, and then they brought it down. Yeah,
we got the COVID discount.
That's the one. Yo, guys, that's the one time Vieira did something good for the club.
We get
He's like, no, pa, he reneged. He's like, nope, pa, Lotisti chega. And look, it worked. It worked for like 8 months or whatever. Then it was shipped out. But yeah, I mean, dude, I forgot. Pa, or rest. Grazie. Dude, we forgot about so many of these bums. Here I am. I'm putting Yaremchuk 3rd, and there's like 8 guys ahead of him. Forgot about Weigl. De Tomas. That dude came over for espresso in Lisbon. That don't count.
Dude, let's out of that list that's up on the screen right now, how many of those guys can you say
they were hits?
Ever had a lasting impression?
Vinicius. And I'll tell you why.
Well, he took the goal scorer title for one.
So
for 1 year.
That for 1 year, it worked.
I mean,
Everton so far short, very short. I think Weigl is proving his worth for sure.
Yeah.
But Everton is he's not even worth 5 million right now.
Hold on. If Weigl was to leave today, would you say it was a success? No.
He hasn't played. No, it hadn't enough.
You wouldn't say it was a success.
Yeah, Timo says Weigl and Vinicius.
No, Vinicius, because of that 1 year, you won the Pichichi. So
yeah, for sure. His name is etched in the club's history because he won that year.
Yeah,
and only if they would have sold him at that point, right?
Yeah,
I can't say, yo, Davey. I'm sorry, I can't say Weigl hands down.
But no, I think that
he struggled for the most part.
But here's the thing that we're all looking at the list of all these players. All these players are attacking players, with the exception of Weigl.
But assim é que é. Mas gastar dinheiro, you're gonna score on a finisher, bro. You're gonna waste money on a finisher on a guy that makes
not on the right back, right?
I mean, not for nothing, but to spend for criticize him all you want, rightfully so. But to spend this type of cake on a right back, I mean, for Benfica at least, on a right back, I mean, that's saying a lot.
Didn't what's his name? Paulo Fonseca go to Everton for at Chelsea for numbers around these, like 15 mil?
But those guys had come off of winning the Champions League with Porto. It's totally different. And plus, at the time, the money was running wild. Yeah. Ibrahimovic had so much money to just throw around and stuff.
All right, let's move on. Champions League debut for Benfica after being absent last year from the Champions League. Benfica started their Champions League group stage campaign today as we record this with a trip to Kiev in the Ukraine to play Dinamo. I'll give you the lineup. Vlaco Dimos was in goal. Otamendi, Vertonghen, and Morato. Again, Verissimo after playing this past weekend, getting a rest. Gilberto.
He was suspended.
That's right. I'm sorry. Would you think he would have played? Had he not been suspended? I'm sorry. Yeah, he was suspended. You're right.
Well, I mean, maybe, of course. I'm guessing.
Gilberto and Grimaldo as the wingbacks. Weigl, João Mário, Rafa, Everton, Yaremchuk. Cristiano, if you're JJ, is this the starting 11 that you start with?
Me?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess.
If you're, are you looking at this and thinking this is the strongest lineup that I could field?
Look, considering Verissimo's out, I guess Morato is your number 4 guy, so he's in there. I guess my Ballon d'Or favorite so far early on in the season, Gilberto. And then plus after Antonio has posted that picture, that guy should be the starter, hands down, no doubt about it. But maybe today I might have left him out. I'm not sure he's my best option.
In favor
forward.
of who?
Lazaro. That you spent $7.5 million on this guy.
But you think that Lazaro has been with the team long enough to understand what it's needed?
What's there to understand? Run up and down the wing and make a difference.
It's not that simple, dude.
Bro, defend and attack. That's it. When the opposition got the ball, track back. When you got the ball, make the runs and keep it wide. That's it.
Keep it moving.
Keep it moving. Cross the ball. Look out for your arm trick. But yeah, I think. And look, Everton, based on the way he's played lately, I guess you could say it was a surprise.
Who would you have played in that spot?
I probably would have played Darwin.
Yeah. Do you think
like I mentioned to you before, I think Benfica is gonna have to find a spot for Darwin, and with the Yarmchuk being because look, say what you want about Darwin, could he possibly, affect the game a little bit more than a Yarmchuk because of his physicality, the fact that he comes back, gets the ball behind the midfield, makes those tremendous runs, gets into the box, and all of a sudden it's like a Rafa all over again. He forgets what to do, forgets that he's playing soccer, but at least he has different characteristics, right? Then, as we mentioned before, the other strikers, so many strikers on the team. So I think you're gonna have to find a spot for him. And on that left side, I think it makes all the sense. He cuts in, right foot, the whole. So I think I'll grow with that based on the way that Everton has played. And Everton last year, to finish off the season, what was it, Dave? 4 or 5 games? I don't want to say he was fantastic, but things were looking up for him. He finished the season on a high. He finished the season on a high.
Yeah. He's one of our best players.
And then you thought, okay, look, he adapted. It took him a little bit longer to adapt. And now, all right, he was going to spend a couple more months in Portugal. The COVID situation was being lifted a little bit, right? All the restrictions. The guy's going to get a little bit more comfortable. Oh man, next season is going to be fantastic for him. He's going to start off on a high, and he's returned back to the Everton that initially showed up, and I'm shocked. I mean, you want to tell me, for example, Darwin has struggled. I can't really tell you I'm surprised. I mean, you're talking about it came from second division, an unknown. But when you look at Everton, a guy that was demolishing the Brasileirão, a guy that was playing at a very high level in the Libertadores, a guy that was starting for the Brazil, ladies and gentlemen, the Brazilian national team, being Brazil's leading goal scorer in the Copa America. You expect that guy to come in and fit like a glove and just take off sprinting and, just leaving everybody in the dust and spending 12 months at Benfica and being out. And it hasn't been that.
Yeah, Dave, no doubt that the patience has been running out on Everton. But do you think that JJ is waiting for that one really good game and hope that he could build out on?
I think it's not just JJ, but everybody in the club, because that price tag that we're just keep repeating ourselves over, right? If they made that huge investment on him, they want to make their money back plus more. They don't want to take a loss on Everton. So I think everybody is hoping for Everton to click back in. I just looked up at his stats to end the year off there. Cristiano finished 5 out of the last 8 games with either a goal or an assist, contributing to the team last year. But so far it's not ticking for Everton this early in the season.
Yeah. No, look, I am one of the people of the opinion that perhaps some bench time would do him well. Maybe even some time off, because after all, he had a very short time vacationing. He did the Copa America, and then he was right back in Portugal. So maybe he deserves a little bit of time off just to clear his head, just to clear his mind. I don't know, man, but it's just something that right now the sentiment amongst Benfica, the Benfica fan base, is that Everton is a dud.
I don't want to do this, but do you guys think that due to JJ's approach, JJ's demand of excellence, he wants his players to give it their all 100% of the time. Do you think that maybe is playing a role in Everton's mind? Do you think
in terms of what?
That exigência?
In terms of what? That now all of a sudden it falls outside of what his typical game style?
Because JJ is expecting so much from the guy and demanding the guy to be perfect and follow his instructions and track back and play like this and get him. Maybe he's out of his comfort zone. Maybe he's not himself. Should JJ?
But he's had now 2 years with JJ, so he should know what to expect.
But that's fine. But JJ knowing, because as you guys recall, he bragged about this guy even before coming to Benfica when he was at Flamengo. And so much so, Benfica signed Pedrinho. They asked him about a play, like, Everton, this guy, I want to sign this guy. And so maybe due to the high level that JJ was accustomed from seeing out of Everton, right? And as I mentioned to you guys before, this is a guy that came from the Brazilian national team. This is a guy that should come in and leave everybody in their dust and come in and click and play well and just tear the whole league up. And JJ keeps expecting that player rather than saying, you know what, Everton? Cara, vai no jogo. Joga futebol. Faça o que quiser. Do what you got to do. Just, play, have fun. As opposed to detailed instructions. Because I tell you, I never played at Benfica, unfortunately, because we'd have a lot more titles. But I know when I played with like those specific track back, get behind the ball, especially when the whole Mourinho shit came out with the notes, and now every coach and their mother swore they were coaches and they were Mourinho and they were coming in, making substitute notes and track back, all 11 men behind the ball, and I'm like, yo, I think I told the story on the podcast. I went through the season where like I had no goals and the coaches yelling at me like, you got to score. And I said, bro, I can't do both. You either want me to score or you want me to track back. I can't do both. And maybe that's playing in Everton's head. Because Everton maybe just needs to be thrown out there. You just got to joga futebol. Do what you got to do. As opposed to every time because Grimaldo's going to overlap and you got to track back and you got to, you know what I'm saying? Maybe there's just too much bull crap in his head because JJ's expecting him to be the same old Everton. And again, I'm not saying JJ's wrong. Because when you know somebody has the potential, has the talent, you're always going to demand more out of those guys than a Gilberto. Right? So JJ is not wrong, but at the same, at the same token, JJ maybe should read the situation a little bit, and just say, "Look, man, maybe I'm asking too much out of you." And as you mentioned, he needs some bench time, but he hasn't started the last couple games. Today he started. He hasn't really been that guy, but maybe JJ just needs to pull it back a little bit and say, "Look, just go play football." Do what you do best.
Yeah, I think it's. I don't think it's within JJ's style to cater to a player that will affect the team that much to just one player. There's 11 players, but he's catering now to one player. I think that's not his style. But there's a couple comments here. Mark Lopes, he says the difference is no one plays D in Brazil. Yeah, and it's.
But we're not talking about Brazil. We're talking about the Libertadores. We're talking about the Brazilian national team.
Even so, South America is they're not very defensive.
Is
physical, not defensive.
Okay, if I'm being physical, partir las pernas.
And this Nike D is saying he needs some competition, and that could be it too. If
competition, he's been benched.
Well, he's been benched, but if he has a guy
that we don't talk about, what's his name? The guy he came in, subbed in for him today.
Redondic
or something.
Too bad he doesn't play like the old Redondo in Madrid, but that's
but that could be it too. If he knows that he has a guy that it says this guy is gonna sit my ass on the bench, he's not only getting benched because he needs a bit of rest, but because now he has this guy that's much better than him, that's playing better, not much better, but that's playing better and deserves the shot, right? So now all of a sudden it's like, okay, well, what changes in your mind? Now I have to compete. I have to apply myself better. I have to try to do better. And we don't know if it's a mental thing or if it's just tiredness or if it's just something, as Cristiano mentioned, out of his comfort zone. We don't know. The fact of the matter is that we paid a lot of money for him and we had a lot of expectations coming from him. And so far, he's fallen very short of the expectations that we've had.
100%, but I disagree with what you said before. You can't cater to one player. You have, 25 players on a right. And I totally disagree because you run the risk of losing the player completely. So you look, everybody's different. I've always said the best coaches in the world are the guys that adapt to every player. Not you get guys that have success, but look at a Mourinho. He had success with his system, and his system's been out the window the last 10 years. You have to at times switch things around, and I get it. You have to be demanding. You have to be, on top of players and demand that they do what they got to do. But you need to read the situation. So you either lose this player completely. You're not getting. Look, one thing's for sure. In a year and a month that he's been at Benfica, he hasn't been with the exception of 5 games. He hasn't been anywhere near the player anyone expected. So look, man, this ain't working. We need to change things around. And you don't have to massage his ego. You don't have to treat him differently than his teammates, but you have to maybe change the restrictions on his game, the specific instructions because every player on the field needs.
I get that.
I'm pretty sure JJ's telling different guys what to do.
I get that.
So I think you have to manage every situation differently. Right now, one thing's for sure. The way things have gone for Darwin and for an Everton, the 2 most expensive acquisitions last year, they have not gone well. So you know what, man? Look, maybe I have to change my game plan here. And I think JJ needs to read that situation because one thing's for sure. The guy that we have running out there now, he's not going to change results for you. If anything, he's hurting you more than he's helping you. Yeah. So, hey, why not change it around?
He needs some bench time. I need some bench time. I think it's time. It's time. I completely understand what you're saying. That you need to look at a player and say, okay, how much? What do I have to do to bring out the happiness in this player, where he can feel happy and he could play naturally? I get all of that. I get all of that, but they're big boys.
Bro, again, they're big boys, but when you as a coach, you get paid for 2 things: to win games, right? And you're there to manage players, manage egos, manage player, and you have a player that has not had success. It falls at the end of the day, it falls on the coach to do everything they can in their power to make sure that they get the very best out of that position.
I get it.
Player. And if it means switching him from his customary left side where he's more comfortable to the right side, you need to try something as opposed to just keep doing the same thing. What's the definition of insanity?
Again?
Banging your head against the wall and expecting a different result, whatever, doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. That's insanity. And JJ needs to realize that whatever I'm doing with this player is not working. So maybe I got to put him on the right side. Maybe how many times you saw where you had Di Maria on one side, or no, I'm sorry, Salvio, and you had with the Gaetan. And a lot of times you've seen the two of them swap. Gaetan will wind up on the right because, sometimes, just the opposition, their characteristics, they matched up with you well. And maybe, Gaetan, right, was like, maybe I could take that. It's all about the confidence in the game at that moment. And JJ needs to do everything he can to flip things around and make it work.
I understand.
That's what he's getting paid for.
All right, let's we're going off on these tangents. Let's rein it back and talk about this Kiev game. So Benfica, I could say that Benfica dominated most of the game, right? They were in control of the game. They didn't create as many chances that they should have. And then at the end they suffered a little bit. But here's the thing. Do you think that some of these players were scared of the Champions League, or they were, what's the word that I'm looking for?
Hesitant, yeah.
Not hesitant, but they were
doubting themselves. Second guessing, questioning.
Não, pá. Estavam impressionados. They were
impressed.
What's the word?
They weren't impressed.
This is why I shouldn't drink when I do the podcast. I forget shit.
It's all right.
No, they were just scared.
Anxious.
Scared. I was scared with anxious.
Well, because you get anxious. When I get anxious, I get scared. Now, here's the thing.
Intimidated.
Here's the thing.
Intimidated by Champions League. Once they heard that anthem, do you think they were intimidated? I mean, you got a few guys that were playing the Champions League for the first time in their life.
I'll tell you this much, and Dave, he's starting off right when he said, let's reel this back in, let's talk about this game. And I'm sitting and I'm questioning in my head, like, do I go positive or do I? And one of the things I actually wrestled with in my brain was, do I mention this? Do I want to go off on a tangent, as you mentioned before? But and my question was exactly that in my head was, is this really creeped into the players' minds, the doubt in the Champions League? Because you see this team playing again. This wasn't Bayern Munich. If this was Bayern Munich, I think we'd all be ecstatic with the result. But this is the weaker opponent in the group. Maybe Barcelona is at the end of the day, but at least on paper, Dinamo is the one accessible game that Benfica had. And I get it was on the road, but Benfica had an obligation on paper at least to win this game. And we go out there and we look like a deer in the headlights. And we dominated the game to a certain extent, but I think this was a totally opposite game, the reverse from what we saw in Santa Clara on the weekend. That first half, Santa Clara was the team that controlled most of the game, had the better chances, and Benfica had the one chance, and they scored it. In this game, Benfica, I don't want to say they created, but at the same time, they did enough to warrant a goal, to get a goal.
Yeah,
and they just,
I agree.
No foram eficaz. They weren't, what's the word I said before, Dave? Like, I'm with you
efficient.
Now. Efficient. They weren't efficient in this one game because I think they did enough to come away with this game.
I thought so too. But I think that maybe because the level of the situation, the importance of the situation, the importance of you're playing the weakest team in a group and you're obligated to come out with the 3 points. Do you think that they're way too much in the players' minds to the point that there was way too much pressure for them? Because as Benfica and as a team with the history that Benfica has, you go to Kiev, especially having the track record that you've had against Kiev throughout the European competition. You got to go in there and you got to take it to them. You got to go spank some ass.
I totally agree. I mean, what else can I say?
And they definitely, I don't think it was they were intimidated because you did, like Cristiano said, you did see that in the first half. They brought the game to Kiev. Where I think the game changed was when JJ made the substitutions in the 60th minute. After that, I think it was a completely different team. We were going up, but there was no real chances being created. We might have controlled possession, but no real quality goal chances were being created after Yaramchuk came out. And I know he brought in Radonjic and Lazaro as well. But I felt like the team was very disconnected after that initial substitution in the 60th minute, and we didn't really pose any threat after that substitution was made.
And Dave, you bring up a great point in terms of comparing the two games, right? And the difference here is that Kiev played with a low block, just like Santa Clara. They gave the ball to Benfica. But the thing is now you got a team that's a lot more competent defending than a Santa Clara.
And not just that, I think they came out and played on a counter, and it just seemed that every time there wasn't many, but when they got the ball and they came the other way and they got into our defensive third, it's as if everything, the panic button was set off, and you saw, Vlaco Dimos kicking the ball up, and you just saw Otamendi. It's like they pressured up top. They were content to sit back, but at the same time, they were applying enough pressure that caused Benfica a ton of trouble in the back, and things could have gotten really ugly there. And Vlaco Dimos had to save us early on, and how do I put this, man? Because this is a game that I think many of us would have been happy with in other instances, because this is exactly what you want to see. You want to see Benfica come into a game and own the ball and own the game and control the situation and control the tempo. And we got that. But at the same time, it was a disappointing result because we should have gotten on the scoreboard. In the opposition, I think they had fewer, but they had the better scoring chances.
Yes, especially in the final minutes.
And so there's that side of, oh yeah, look, we're controlling the game. This is what we want. But then it's like, wait a minute. These guys bring you have the ball, but they almost, you know what I mean? It's just so, it left you very discontent with the whole situation. It was a tie that you took as a loss.
It's I would definitely think of this as a loss. You're playing against the worst team in the group on paper. Obviously, you have the obligation to come out with the 3 points, whether you're playing home or away. But Davey, he makes a great point. And it's something that we've said here on the podcast is that we lack that Champions League culture that we see Porto having every year. Porto goes into these games and they're not scared of anyone.
Yeah, but Alfredo, you're talking about Champions League. How many times the three of us talked down here on the podcast when Benfica was going to the Dragão, when Porto's coming to the lose, that attitude of coming into your house.
They carry the same attitude into Champions League.
But that's my point. It's not just in the Champions League. It's that they have that mentality,
it's
that
DNA.
attitude all day long, regardless of where or who they're playing against.
Right. Oh, and look, and thank God we weren't playing with the rotation squad and the subs that we have seen in the past with Lage and Vitória in the Champions League. Thank God for that, at least. And the other thing is that we'll at least finish with the Champions League with more group stages with more points than that 1 year that we finished with 0 points under Vitória. But I can't help to think. I can't help to think how big of a chance we missed here, especially with Bayern beating Barcelona in Catalonia, and we could have been right up there with Bayern with 3 points. It was a normal thing for
looking at it glass half full. Hey, Dave, how many times can we say we're higher in the standings than a Barcelona? And here we are. We got 1 point, baby. Barcelona 0. Right, that's positive, right?
No, it's positive. I mean, it's a way to look at it. It's a positive for me. You come out of it.
Yeah, well, I think we all expected.
Should have won. You should have won this game.
I think had we started off the group stage against Barcelona and Bayern Munich, and we came away with the 0-0 result on the road, I think we'd all be ecstatic. But due to the fact of who the opponent was, with all the changes, with all the new players brought in and all the money spent, we've been waiting realistically 2 off seasons for this, because last year was such a disappointment after spending 100 mil. And now here you are spending some more money, playing in your first Champions League game after having a terrific, call it what you want, a terrific qualification throughout the UCL playoff run, whatever it was, going undefeated in that. And now you're playing the easiest game on paper. You're definitely expecting to come away with the victory. You've won every single game with the exception of the one draw against PSV. You've scored goals in every single game with the exception of that one game, right? And it's just, things have been hitting on all cylinders. And here you are, at least as a fan, you're thinking, all right, maybe we're going to finally get a victory in the Champions League, which the last time we won in the Champions League was against Astana to lead off the group stage, because our record has been atrocious, right, Dave? I mean, you have the stats in front of you. Give us the record in the group stage, at least to start off the campaign.
Yeah, to start off, the last 3 have all been losses: Leipzig, Bayern Munich, and CSKA. But like you said, the first game out of the last 7 appearances that Benfica's won their opening group stage match, and that came all the way back in 2015, 2016. So. Hey, it wasn't a loss, but it wasn't a victory either, right? It depends on which which Cristiano you want to be. If you want to be the positive Cristiano, it's a draw and it's not a loss, right? So
yeah, Nelson is asking if do we think that we missed Verissimo? Yeah, and I'll tell you why. Because Otamendi is probably better suited to doubling up guys, to get to that space where he feels there may be a gap once Verissimo Vertonghen comes out. I think that Otamendi was playing out of his typical position today, which is more in the center. Vertonghen was playing in the center. And I think that once he has Verissimo, not only for Verissimo's speed, but also when you're playing almost like a sweeper role, it's much easier to defend, to double up a guy than it is if you're the first one on the ball, especially if you're not a fast guy. So in that aspect, I thought that Benfica missed Verissimo in the back line.
I don't think we missed him at all, because I don't think the reason why Benfica didn't win this game had nothing to do with the defensive side of the ball. Is the fact that we couldn't get the ball in the back of the net. So I'm pretty sure when you sub in a Morato for, a guy like Verissimo, who today, look, maybe Morato gets to that level, but today Verissimo is obviously the much better player. But again, defensively, Benfica did well enough. They were able to keep the opposition blank. So therefore, I think the difference today was the fact that we could not finish. Yeah. And so unless you're telling me Verissimo goes in and he scored, didn't he just score a couple weeks ago?
Yeah.
Unless you tell me he's going to make a difference up front and, putting the ball in the back of the net in a corner or whatever it was. But I think today, Benfica, that efficiency wasn't there. They created enough chances. It wasn't any clear cut, with the exception of that one from but that with the little fumble in the middle, Yaremchuk and and straight at the goalie's knees or whatever. And look, the goalie did well enough to get on that, but they created enough. It should have been enough to get at least get a one.
You used up all your efficiency against Santa Clara, and now there was none.
Damn draining system. Oh no, my bad. The wrong year. Sorry,
Dave. What else? So look, it wasn't as bad. It could have been worse, right? So 1 point, but I thought that these two games against Kiev are the two games that are going to put you in a position whether you're fighting for second or not. But it's unfortunate, but maybe we'll make up those points somewhere. But I hope that at the end of the group stages, we're not looking at this game and said, if we had won that game, we would have been in a better position.
We will, because that's what Benfica does. I mean, it's never easy.
Yeah. Dave, what other stats did we miss on this game so we can move on to Boavista?
Yeah, just piggybacking on our defensive talk here. Benfica's only conceded 3 goals through their first 10 games of the season, which has been their best defensive record to open up a season since 1999-2000. Benfica ultimately controlled the match, but couldn't get their goal. We had the shots in our favor, 12-8. Both teams had 4 shots on target, and Benfica finished with 68% possession, but again, no goal, and we only get the 1 point.
And I think we need to give a shout out to a guy who I like to get on a lot, but Vlaco Dimos, I think today was the difference in the game. As I said before, Benfica created enough chances, but by far they had the better chances. So credit to Vlaco Dimos for making up for the one mistake he did at Santa Clara. He had another hiccup in this game that I thought a ball into the box that he could have came out, and he didn't. But nonetheless, I thought he still played well, and he was the difference why Benfica didn't turn this from an ugly day into a disastrous day. So
I would still like to see him better with his feet too, though. He was very panicky. As soon as the ball came to his feet, he was just clearing it without trying to look for a man. But that's always going to be his downfall.
Yeah. All right, now turning our attention to domestic competition. Benfica will play Boavista when? Monday? Is it Monday, Dave, that Benfica will play Boavista?
Let's take a look.
I think it might be Monday, if I'm not mistaken.
The 20th.
The 20th is when, Chris?
Which is Monday.
It's Monday.
Why?
It doesn't make sense.
Why? It makes no
you
sense.
You could be playing Saturday because you've played Tuesday.
But it just makes.
Do you play Champions League next week? No.
Maybe
that's why.
Between a game, but still, why? It doesn't. They play Wednesday. They should play at least Sunday. I mean Tuesday. They should play Sunday. Why Monday?
You could even play Saturday.
I know they could, but I'm giving them an extra day. Sunday. Why Monday?
Right. Yeah. So what's Boavista been up to these days, Dave?
Don't talk to me about Boavista, bro.
Why not?
Brings you bad memories?
Because last year we started off on a high as well, and then all of a sudden,
let me tie that in. Let me tie that into this, Chris. Here, but right now, Boavista are in 5th position with 8 points to their first 5 games, 2 wins, 2 draws, 1 defeat. Both victories coming against Paços Ferreira and Santa Clara. Historically, 74 wins, 32 draws, 20 losses. The last 10 meetings, 6 wins, 2 draws, 2 losses. And here's the stat Chris wants. Last season, Boavista handed Benfica their first league loss, 3-0 defeat at the Bessa. And that fixture also occurred during the 6th week of league competition. And this week, it's the 6th week. So
But
here we go.
But as much as I didn't want to hear these numbers on them, you gave me a little bit of confidence, because if again, unless my memory, which is shot at half the time, but unless my memory is escaping me here, going into that game, they didn't have any victories, right? Last year, I think they had like 0 points or whatever.
That was their only victory, I think, up until like Christmas or New Year's.
Exactly. So now the fact that they got 2 out of the way already, all right. So they're good. They're good for the rest of the first half. So maybe Benfica, they spare Benfica this one.
Yeah, I'm always a little bit hesitant coming off European competition, but it doesn't even feel like that if you're playing Monday. I mean, it's almost a week later that you're playing.
Makes no sense. I mean, I thank you, right? These guys.
Yeah, but when you need the league to give you breaks, they won't give you breaks. But now they'll give you this much of a
which makes no sense.
Break.
And then on a Monday, why the hell would you play Benfica on a Monday when the whole country is going to watch?
So
let's put it on a work day, ladies and
when's
gentlemen.
Porto
But
and
then again,
Sporting
does anybody
playing?
work on Mondays in Portugal?
I'm bringing it up here.
Because Porto and Sporting played the Champions League tomorrow.
They play on the Sunday. They play on Sunday.
That
both
is
of them.
so ass backwards. So Sporting and Porto play on tomorrow, Wednesday, as we record
They
this.
played after Benfica on Saturday, right? And then they play the day after Benfica in the Champions League, and then they play the day before. But yeah, I mean, this is typically
This is
Portuguese
great,
league. This
man.
is right on cue. This is right with
Nothing surprises me about this league anymore and the scheduling.
What time's the game, Dave?
9:30 at night.
Is it? Don't tell me that. Stop playing.
No, it's at 7 o'clock. 7 o'clock Portugal time.
On Monday? Is Monday a holiday in Portugal? That's really early for a weekday game.
Because then Braga plays right after at
9
wait.
o'clock.
Oh, okay.
9 o'clock.
So there's
Jesus.
a double fixture on the
I
Monday
thought,
night.
why would you play a 9 p.m. game on a Monday night? Who does Braga play?
Tondela.
But
That's a
Braga
good 3
is
hours away.
Braga playing Europa League?
Yes, Thursday.
Yeah.
Well, so that makes sense that they're playing Monday.
Braga. Yeah.
Holy cow!
Maybe the league got it confused because Benfica, from what we read, JJ tried to delay the game against Santa Clara, and they said, "Look, we can't do this week, but we can do next week." Maybe that
We got you.
Maybe they got the
We
memo.
got you.
Compromise.
Maybe the facts came in late and they still approved it, even though Benfica had already played. Maybe. What do you guys think?
I think it's a possibility. Nothing surprises me with this league, man. Unreal, man.
Hey, man, look. I guess Verissimo gets another day of rest. And Otamendi and all these guys that showed up right on top of the hour. But it makes let's the Federation, let's fit 3 games into 7 days. And let's play games the same day that players return. And let's have all this crazy, schedule that players don't get like 24 hours off in between games. And then like, oh yeah, Benfica plays Tuesday. Yeah, no.
Yeah.
It just as Davey says, Portuguese league at its finest, baby. For sure.
That's right.
For sure.
That's right. What else we got? I think that's pretty much it, Chris.
Nelson Carvalho says maybe they thought we were in the Europa League. You're probably right, Dave. The way they played today, Benfica might have thought they were in the Europa League as well.
Yeah. Even by Europa League standards, that was a pretty shitty game by Benfica. I don't know. And look, I don't want to be that guy that complains about everything, but I just thought that these games against Kiev, they're must-wins. They're must-wins, man. So I'm a little bit hung up on it. And we were fortunate that VAR called that goal back, because I think that there was a lot of us already with our head in our hands, just cursing the soccer gods, because we dominated for most of the game, or we were in control for most of the game, and then we allowed that goal at the end of the in extended time, I think, right? Added time.
I don't know. I was already thinking of pulling a sore throat for tonight. I don't know, man. It was just, I'm back, and all of a sudden we get a loss. I mean, come on. I was gonna quit. Dave, you're gonna be the main
I
guy.
was already texting in the group. I couldn't believe what we saw there, but luckily VAR was on our side. I still don't know how he called it back. I guess it wasn't the guy that scored. It was the guy that made the pass was offside.
Nah, from what I was told, it was the guy that made the pass.
That passed to the guy that made the assist.
Jesus Christ! So they brought it back like
2 plays.
Just like when Benfica scores in the Portuguese league, they rewind the tape 2 minutes beforehand, right, to make sure everything is okay. So it goes our way this time.
That's the way it's supposed to be.
Dave, you're right. It's about time we get a call our way.
Look, my only concern is that for as fortunate as we have been early this season,
that's going to run out because it's going to even out. Is that what you're saying? But those are safe for games against Porto.
Yeah, but look at last season. It's a balancing act. Last season, everything wasn't going our way. It's
no penalty kicks for 30 jornadas. And then we finally got one. But yeah, my thing is that all this good juju, this good mojo, may sooner or later finish up.
Look, don't put that out there in the atmosphere. Just leave that to yourself. Just leave it to yourself.
All I can say
on the internet, it's on forever.
Is I'm glad to be back here on a podcast. I'm glad to be doing this with you.
We're glad you're back.
I'm glad all you guys in the chat. We got to give these guys a name, like our boys over at the Benfica FM do with the thoughts. What are we gonna call these guys? We need to come up with something. For those of you listening, give us suggestions. Benfica Podcast at Twitters. Check it out. Give us, what should we call? The guys from FM are good at this. Nuno. Daí palpite, daí suggestion. Como é que é? Sugestão.
No, if they call them tots, we can call them totes.
Totes.
That's the American name.
That's some you carry around your arm. I don't know.
Yeah, Orest Kiev is a very defensive team because they have good defenders but crappy strikers. There will be more space against Barcelona, and they are rattled 4-4-2 against.
There'll be a ton of space because all our defenders be in the back of the net picking up balls.
The other thing is JJ was saying that there's only 2 teams that have won in Kiev in the past 5 or 6 years, which was Barcelona and Juventus, if I'm not mistaken. So it's not easy to win in Kiev because of exactly what Orest was saying.
Yeah, but did Barcelona and Juventus have the VAR on their side?
I don't know.
Well, we didn't win neither. We would have lost. So we got to draw.
Yeah.
That's good.
The gods, the VAR. I wonder where Baquero feels about this because he's so against VAR. I wonder how he feels about this one.
I think he's happy. At least, look, I mean, the very least, right?
Good for the gander, good for the goose, right?
Yeah, you get a point out of it. I mean, it can't be any worse than we were a couple years ago. So,
all right, everybody. Thanks for keeping us company and being active in the chat and asking us questions. Next week we'll be back. We will break down the Boavista game, and we'll look ahead to what else is up.
Guimarães after that.
Guimarães and Barcelona are up after that.
Is it?
Yeah.
No, don't we play Barcelona in like 3 weeks?
No.
It's a week and a half before we play.
But we play them. We play them next. We play them next.
Okay.
Thanks again, everybody. Have a good night. Stay well, stay safe, and Força Benfica.
Até a próxima.